Ladies and gents, great news. It's time for another episode of Random Foreign Strangers Do Stuff, and it's definitely your fault. From The Telegraph, the NHS is failing British FGM victims. Women and girls are forced to leave the UK to have reconstructive surgery abroad. Yep, makes loads of sense that. Some bloke moves over from the Horn of Africa, gets a free council house, child benefits, and tens of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money, squirts out a few kids, and then when one of his daughters reaches her teenage years, decides for some inexplicable reason that nobody's ever thought was a good idea in the Western world, decides that he has to take a sharp stone to her lady garden, and apparently it's my fault. Makes loads of sense, doesn't it? Okay, fantastic story this. It's time for another episode of F You Pay Me, British Taxpayer. Yeah, this reminds me of one of my more popular older videos. Do you remember that? Yet another face melter hits the streets. Nearly got 200,000 views, that one. And in that video, I pointed out that no Englishman in the 1970s had ever dreamed of melting a woman's face off because she spurned his advances. Didn't happen. Never, ever, ever. It was a purely imported problem. All right? That's a fact. Owen Jones might not like it, and Nick Laws might have lied about it, and obviously escaped prosecution because he's left-wing, but it's a fact, and everybody knows it's true. So, why then is the NHS deemed a failure because it isn't spending money dealing with yet another imported problem? All right, British plastic surgeons never had to worry about women coming into the surgery with a face like a plasterer's radio because a fella from Stoke-on-Trent was upset that his girlfriend didn't want to marry him. That never ever happened, ever. And in the same vein, I guarantee in 1976 there wasn't a single woman in England walking with a bit of a limp because her dad shipped her off to somewhere in Africa or the Middle East and told an old uncle, "She's nearly a teenager now, mate. Gotta take a hacksaw to her piss flaps like." Don't know what happened to the accent there. I started off Pakistani, turned into a Geordie. Sorry, I'm not Sir Ian McKellen. Anyway, let's read the story. Starts with a nice picture of a random Somalian woman meeting a bloke who's definitely German. Definitely German. It says Shamsa Arawilo had to seek treatment in Germany because of the lack of options in the UK. Again, why is it in Germany? Why is it not in the part of the world where people think hacking at your gusset's a good idea? Why not do it there? I don't know. Anyway, the NHS has been accused of failing victims of FGM by not providing the correct care. Women and girls are forced to leave the UK to have reconstructive surgery abroad because of the lack of treatment, the Telegraph has found. Germany has emerged as one of the main destinations for victims of the practice, with many having to crowdfund up to £30,000 to afford the travel and surgery because of the NHS failings, according to survivors. Whoa, hang on. If they're having to crowdfund it, right, why do the British police never, ever arrest anyone for it? Why? Can anyone tell me a good answer? In fact, I can think of only one time in history that anyone was ever prosecuted for it. So you want to talk about two-tier justice? You tell me why hundreds of thousands of blokes in the UK are leaving the kids with a fanny like a Rottweiler's mouth and nothing's getting done about it. Why? Anyway, don't think about it too much. You can't notice this stuff. If you notice it, Keir Starmer will lock you up. So let's continue. FGM we know what it involves. It's illegal in most countries, including in Africa and Asia, where it's most prevalent. And in the UK, we won't arrest you for it because human rights. Apparently, their right, the men's right, to not worry about racism trumps the women's rights to not having a fat foreign man take a meat cleaver to their genitals, yeah? Making it go from a mouse's ear to a gutted fireplace. Yeah, brilliant idea. The WHO states that it has no health benefits for girls, yet no shit Sherlock. And according to the organisation's updated guidelines, countries should provide comprehensive, informed care for survivors, including access to reconstructive surgery. However, the UK falls short of that. Only about 10% of the UK's 170,000 FGM survivors are eligible for the NHS's sole surgical intervention. 170,000 survivors. And how many of the prosecuted? As of July 2025, there have been 3 convictions for FGM in England and Wales. 3. There's so few of them, they even have the individual cases, look. The 3 successful convictions are 1 in February 2019 of a Ugandan, 1 in October 2023, doing it to a 3-year-old child, and 1 in September 2024. A landmark case that represents the first conviction. Oh my God, 3 from an estimated number of 170,000 victims in the UK. Oh, this is gold. I've just stumbled into this by accident. This is the 2-tier justice motherlode. Let's not worry about trifling things like, lying asylum seekers, murdering people and getting treated with kid gloves the entire time. Let's not focus on that. This right here is the motherlode. 3 convictions in decades for over 170,000 victims. Children having their split kippers dissected by clumsy oafs with blunt cutting instruments. It's like something from a horror movie. And 3 prosecutions. Unbelievable. Staggering. Shamsa Aroilo was forced to go to Germany. She crowdfunded it, obviously, so everyone knows about it. And obviously everyone chipped in. Dr. Dan Mon O'Day. Dan Mon O'Day. He sounds like a cross between a foreigner, an Irishman, and a Pokemon. A specialist in his reconstructive surgery said he's seen an influx of patients from the UK. Every week I have contact with them coming from England. Huda, I can't say her last name, you know how it goes, an MBE recipient and a lead specialist midwife, said there is aftercare and ongoing support in Germany, but said there's unmet needs for those with type 1 and 2 FGM. July is deemed cutting season, a period during school holidays when girls are considered to be at heightened risk. Because everyone does it, and everyone knows about it, and the government couldn't give a single shite. As an aside, it's funny that the advertisements for tuna, innit? I mean, talking about the subject matter, reminds me of that old Chubby Brown joke. My wife got some women's deodorant to do all these different flavours, strawberry and mint and lime. She bought tuna. Where was I? The NHS has a duty of care to these women. These are British women. These are women who are suffering. And it's a basic duty of care. Well, I'll stop you there, love. I'll stop you there. They aren't either. And it isn't a British practice. Nope. 100% an imported problem. Why do I have to pay for it? Why? I tell you what, I'm done. This story's annoying me. I'm not interested. I'll pay for it when you prosecute the 170,000 plus blokes that should be behind bars and then aggressively deported for treating their own children's nether regions like a particularly tough burnt Sunday roast. All right, I'll do that when you do your duty of care. They're all talking about duty of care. Duty of care. There are British women. Is a duty of care. Arrest the foreigners grooming, diddling, torturing, killing, and the cherry on top, sewing their own kids' backy pouches up with blunt instruments on the worst summer holiday ever. All right? But that's me for the day. If you disagree, you don't think anyone should go to prison over this type of thing, because coincidentally you also think it's a good idea to fill your pockets with rat poison and ball bearings and blow yourself up at a concert, please let me know in the comments. All right? Then we can hopefully send your details to the CIA and they can put you on the watch list, because the British government definitely won't do that. All right? And that's why British women and children are constantly at the mercy of people who wish to harm them. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you all very soon. Toodle pip. Cheers.